there, everyone. My name is Scott Nicholson, and I'm a professor at Wilfrid Laurier University in Brantford, Ontario, where I direct the Game Design and Development program, and I also am in charge of the Brantford Games Network and the Begin Lab, and I study escape rooms. So I wanted to put together this little video for you, an Escape Rooms 101 tutorial, to tell you some of the basics that you should know before you go in doing your first escape room. Before we go too far, though, I want to talk about what an escape room is. So an escape room is a team-based challenge where you're going to be working together with a group of people to find hidden objects and clues, to solve puzzles, and to accomplish tasks in order to get out of a space in a limited amount of time. Now, about 30% of escape rooms actually have a different goal than getting out of a space. They may have you trying to heist some jewelry or learn about who a murderer is or something like that. But they are going to have a time limit. Typically, it's either 45 minutes or 60 minutes. What makes escape rooms fun? Well, first, you're doing it with a group of people, and so you're engaging in these activities with a group. Second, they're things in the real world. As compared to sitting in front of a screen, not actually interacting directly with that world, escape rooms are real-world activities. You're getting to go on an adventure, to have an escape, to do something outside of your norm. And third, they get your brain working, and you get together with a group of people, get your brain working, work in the physical world. It's an engaging live action experience. And fourth, you have to do it under time pressure, and time pressure heightens that excitement. So they're exciting, engaging activities, and there's probably one in a city near you. So my goal of this video is to first explain what's going to happen when you show up, give you some ideas of what'll happen in the room, provide you some tips to help you have a better escape room experience, and then talk about what you may want to do after you've done an escape room. I've studied hundreds of escape rooms, and this video is going to provide common patterns, but know that many escape rooms are independent, and so therefore anything I say in here may not be true for the specific escape room you're going to go to. Also, different continents have different types of escape rooms, so again, you may find the experience you have different than what I'm presenting here, but what I'll try to present in this video are the common patterns I've identified in escape rooms. So you found an escape room you want to try. Now what? Well, you need to book a time. You can't just walk into most escape rooms and play. You need to book ahead of time because they have only a limited number of slots for people to play their games. So you'll book a slot, and here's something important to ask. Ask if you're going to be booked with other people in that same time slot, or if you're going to have the room to yourself and your group. If you're in the United States, there's a greater chance that you're going to be booked with other people in that time slot. Now, if you don't like that idea of being put in a room with a group of strangers, then what you may want to consider is asking if you can actually book the entire room. So, for example, an escape room that has a room that can hold 8 people, if you say, well, if we book all 8 tickets, we can have the room to ourselves. So ask them about that if that's important to you. On the day of your escape, you want to show up early. You should show up about 15 minutes early to the escape room facility, because once you get in there, you're going to want to use the restroom, you're going to need to sign a waiver, you're going to need to get your wits about you. The intention is if you've booked a 6 o'clock escape that you'll start your game at 6 o'clock. So you want to show up early so you can get everything taken care of before your time starts, because there's going to be another group booked after you're finished. So come early to your escape room experience. Now, when you show up, the first thing they'll do is they'll ask you to sign a waiver. That waiver, you should read over it. It probably will have something about holding the escape room not liable if you hurt yourself. It also may have a clause in there about you not divulging the information that you're going to see in that room. So read over what they're asking you to do in the waiver. They'll then also ask you to pay if you haven't paid already. And then you should use the washroom and prepare yourself to listen to rules. So they're going to give you some rules to the game. Those rules might involve what you should or should not touch in the room, if you should be taking things off of the walls, if you should be moving heavy furniture, how much force you need to use, and most importantly, they're going to talk about how to get help. So most escape rooms have a way for you to get hints or clues, but the systems are going to be different based upon the room. In some rooms, you have to ask for those clues. In other rooms, they're going to watch you and give you help. In other rooms, the hints are on a timer, and every so often, hints will come across. So these are all different ways, and you'll want to listen to how the system works for the hints in your room. The other thing to know is many escape rooms will ask you to remove your possessions, your phones, your keys, and things like that, and either lock them in a locker or put them in a basket that'll be inside the room with you. They're doing that because they don't want you to use these devices during the room. Also, your phone can go off and make noise and distract you from the experience. So I would suggest making sure you turn your phones down to silence, just like you would do in a movie theater, but be aware they may ask you to remove your personal belongings. You should also know that some rooms will handcuff you or put a blindfold on you before they take you into the room. Now, if that's something that scares you, talk to the escape room ahead of time when you're booking the appointment and explain, I'm not comfortable being handcuffed, or I'm not comfortable having a blindfold on me. Can I skip that part? Many escape room experiences are designed so that you can skip the part with handcuffs, or that you can skip having a blindfold on. They get this request frequently, so this is something to ask about. Don't not do a room just because you're going to be handcuffed or have blindfolds on. But if this is something that will bother you, have that discussion ahead of time so there won't be a surprise when you show up to start the room. They will then lead your group into the room, start some kind of timer, and close the door. And you're ready to start. Once the game starts, you're going to be doing several things. The first thing you're going to be doing is figuring out what's in the room and figuring out what puzzles or locks you need to open to be able to move on. And so you'll begin looking for that. You'll begin looking for locks. You'll begin looking for combinations of puzzle pieces, symbols on the walls, symbols on the floor. You should see different things scattered about. And one of the early things you have to figure out is what is part of the game and what is there is just decor. So typically you're going to look for locked drawers, locked boxes, locked doors, things that are secure that you should be able to open. You're going to look for those. So part of it is identifying what it is you need to do and then looking around the room for things that can help you solve that problem. Many escape room puzzles are based upon the old point-and-click adventure games, and those ideas was that you would find something here and something there and put them together, and that would help you solve the puzzle. And that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be looking for what things can you put together to help solve the puzzle. Whether it be there's some information on the wall that corresponds with something in a book, and you put those together, and then you look up information on a table, and then that gives you numbers, and it plugs into a number lock, or you're going to have to unscramble letters in order to come up with a word to put it inside of a word lock. These are all the things you're going to be doing throughout this puzzle. You also may have to accomplish tasks. A common task would be like a laser maze, that there's a series of lasers and you have to physically move through those lasers. In that case, you know what to do, you just have to come up with how best to do it. Now that clock is always going to be counting, and so you want to keep aware of how much time is left and figure out when to ask for help. In rooms where the players ask for help, one of the most common things that the people running those rooms say is that players don't ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. You should ask for help if you're getting frustrated, because you only have so much time and you've paid a lot of money for this experience. So if you're hitting that point where you feel upset, frustrated, like you don't know what to do, go ahead and ask for a clue. Get some help to move on to the next part of the game. Don't be afraid to do that. It's okay. I find it helpful to ensure that there's 3 roles that are covered in any escape room that I do. Now, there's lots of roles about if they have math puzzles, you need someone that does math, and if they have word puzzles, you need someone to do words. But there's 3 things that always are going to be needed. The first is you want a communicator. Now, when you go into this room, everyone should be talking about what they're seeing. If you see a locked box with a 3-digit code, you should say, there's a locked box over here with a 3-digit code. If you see something that looks like a maze on the wall, you say, there's something like a maze on the wall. Verbalize what you're seeing, and the role of the communicator is to listen to what people are saying and share it. Because if everyone's running around the room talking about, I found this, I found that, I found this, the communicator's role should be to collect and share these things so that after that initial scanning of the room, the communicator can share, okay, we have a 3-digit lock there, we have a word lock there, and a directional lock over there. So that's the role of the communicator, is listen and share, because people fail rooms because they don't communicate what they found and other folks in the room didn't hear what was going on. The second role that's important in any room is that of being a searcher. So the searchers, and the searchers, kids are great searchers actually, but anyone that doesn't really like puzzles, have them search. The searchers are going to be looking for things, because many people who get into puzzles, they go into the room, they find an obvious puzzle, they start working on it, and they stop searching. But there's lots of stuff that's hidden around the room. For whatever reason in the escape room world, bad guys like to hide things under desks and tables. So one role that your searcher needs to do is they need to be willing to crawl around the room and look under things to find those hidden messages and hidden keys. Oh, and don't forget to look under everything. Many times locked boxes will happen to have the code you need conveniently inscribed on the bottom or the sides of the box. So that searcher needs to crawl under and flip over everything in the room. Don't forget to look behind any doors that you have opened. Many times there'll be a closet or a cabinet or something, and you'll open the door and there'll be something hidden behind the open door on the wall that you're going to need. So be aware, if you're opening a door, look behind it. Finally, you need someone who's in charge of logistics. So you'll be getting a lot of stuff in the room, and you got to figure out how to deal with that stuff. So the person who's in charge of logistics should have an idea of what's the stuff you found. And they should specify an area when you go into the room to say, everything we've worked with goes here. In most, but not all, rooms, once you've dealt with something for a puzzle, you don't need to deal with it again. This is not always the case, but it is very common. So when you go into the room, you should specify an area and say, stuff that we've used for puzzles goes here, and the person who's in charge of logistics makes sure that happens. The other thing that logistics person does is gets a handle on what is being worked on at what time. So some rooms are very linear, where you'll do a puzzle, and then a puzzle, and then a puzzle. And some rooms have multiple tracks, where you may have 3 or 4 puzzles you could be working on at the same time. The logistics person should have a good idea of what the group's working on at any one time, so that then they can talk to people who don't have any direction and give suggestions to them as to where they may want to go. The logistics person then, because they know what stuff is in the room, they should be aware of what things have not been used and what things have been used, so that they can make connections between things that have not been used and puzzles that we're working on. So those are 3 roles I like to make sure are assigned before I go into the room. Someone who's going to be searching, crawling around, looking under, opening everything, flipping everything over. Someone who is going to be in charge of communicating, of listening and repeating what is being said so that everyone knows what's in the room. And someone who is in charge of logistics, who will take care of where things go when they've been used, who will have a good awareness of what stuff has not been used, and have a general idea of what's being worked on at any one time. It's also important to know your locks. You're going to be finding a lot of these locks when you do escape rooms. And so knowing some basics of these locks are important. First, if you see a word lock in a room, you want to look for colored letters in passages, scrambled letters in words. Anywhere you see letters or words, you want to think about, how can I extract a word that's important from that and use it in the word lock? If you see a lock with a key on it, you need to search. That key is going to be hidden somewhere in that room. It may be inside something else, but a lock with a key means you have searching to do. With numerical locks, it's important to know where do the numbers line up, because some numerical locks have you line up the numbers on the sides. Other numerical locks have you line up the numbers on a red line on the front. So you want to figure out, where do the numbers go on this lock for me to open it, because you can spend a lot of time putting the numbers in the wrong place, thinking you've got it right, and you just didn't have the numbers lined up on the right line. And the dreaded directional lock, what you need to know about this is, before you start entering your code, push the top twice. That resets the lock, then you can enter your code to get it open. If you don't push it twice between attempts, you can try a code that you think is right and it doesn't work, and then you get frustrated because you thought you had the right code. On that, my suggestion is to try each code that you think is right twice, and have someone else try it. Many times in rooms, we've gone in, we think we know what the code is, someone tries the code, it doesn't work, and we move on trying to figure out another way to get that code. And then later on, someone goes and tries the lock who hadn't tried it before, and they get it open with the first code we had. So don't give up. If you think a code is right, have a couple different people try that code just to make sure that it is not the correct code. So you've finished the room, you've escaped, or you haven't escaped. Now what will happen? Well, first, don't be upset. Enjoy the experience. Recognize that these are hard puzzles, and there's a good chance you're not going to actually win the game, but enjoy that experience. The room may or may not take you through the puzzles that you weren't able to solve. Again, this is different based upon the room, but many of them, if you ask, will show you the things that you didn't get to. You will have an opportunity in many rooms to take pictures afterwards. Those pictures might go on the website. If you don't want that to happen, make sure you let them know that you don't want this picture on the website, but you'll have that opportunity to take some sort of silly picture afterwards. Plan on giving yourself a little time afterwards to talk with your team about what went on. because in these rooms you're going to get really excited. There's a term that comes out of live action role playing called froth, where you're going to be just frothing at the mouth about what happened. Give yourself an opportunity to do that, whether you want to go and have some coffee or drink afterwards, get something to eat. Many times at the escape room facility, they won't want you talking about the room because when you come out, there'll be another team waiting to go in. But make sure you give yourself some time to chat about the experience that you went through. So you've done your escape room, and now you're excited and you want to learn more? Well, it's time to head online. If you want to become an escape enthusiast, head over to escapeenthusiasts.com. There's a Facebook group that's very active that we talk about what's going on with escape rooms, and you're welcome to join us there. You can also find my white paper where I talk through this study of 175 escape rooms, and you can get that over escapeenthusiasts.com. So hopefully you'll decide to join us and be part of that community. By the way, if you're an educator, I'm also going to mention something called Breakout EDU. So Breakout EDU takes the concepts of escape rooms and brings it into the classroom. And this is something that would work great for classrooms, for libraries, and museums. I'm a former librarian, and actually I work on making games to change the world. So I'm very involved with Breakout EDU. And so the idea of this is rather than trying to get out of a room, you're trying to get into a locked box. And you have the same challenges, but then all the challenges are designed to help you explore topics in school. So if you're an educator, head over to breakoutedu.com for a whole different concept about dealing with escape room games in a learning environment. Well, there you go. Hopefully you have a better idea of what you're going to be getting into with an escape room. It's a great experience, a great way to bring a group of people together and explore in a physical space a bunch of different activities and puzzles and get you excited and working together as a team. There's a lot of cool stuff happening with escape rooms. So hopefully you'll decide to come and join us on the community and tell us about your first experience in an escape room. Good luck, and hopefully you'll get out. And if not, at least enjoy yourself. Take care, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.